Most people believe arguments fail because someone refused to see the truth. They assume the disagreement persists because the other side is often irrational, ignorant, or dishonest. That belief feels reasonable and it also feels reassuring. Because if that's the explanation, then your thinking remains intact. Wittgenstein thought this was already a mistake. And to be clear, we are talking about mistake on the conceptual level, not on the moral one. Because Wittgenstein noticed that most arguments don't fail at the level of facts. They fail before facts even become relevant. They fail because the people involved do not understand what language is already doing to them. Think about it. You are taught to believing that thinking comes first and words come second. That you perform a thought privately and then select language simply just to express it, as if language were neutral, as if it simply carried ideas from one mind to another. But if you watch yourself closely, that sequence very rarely even occurs. Most of the time, you speak first and only afterwards experience what you said as thought you had. The sentence appears and then you identify with it. Language does not wait for your permission. Words already arrived, they are already structured, already charged, already carrying certain expectations about what matters and what does not. When you use a word, you inherit a framework. You inherit assumptions about what counts as a problem, what would maybe count as an answer, and what cannot be questioned without seeming confused or immoral. None of this feels imposed. It feels like reasoning, but much of what you call reasoning is simply movement along paths laying down by grammar long time before you arrived. This is why arguments can escalate so quickly. Once language organizes your position, well, questioning the words feels like questioning you. It feels like personal attack, and because language does this invisibly, you mistake defense of a formulation for defense of truth. Consider how your Consider how many of your most serious arguments circle around words like freedom, truth, justice, responsibility, meaning. These words feel deep. They feel fundamental. They feel as though disagreement over them must indicate a profound clash of worldviews. And Wittgenstein noticed something more embarrassing, that these words do not point to single stable things. They do not have hidden essences waiting to be uncovered. They function, they are used, and they are used differently in different contexts for even different purposes, according to different and often unspoken rules. People bring the same word into different practices and assume they are talking about the same thing. Well, they are not. The disagreement feels serious because no one notices that the game has changed. No one stops to ask what the word is actually doing here. And so the argument continues, and the issue doesn't even have to be deep, it just simply just simply clarification never occurred. And over time, something shifts. You are no longer defending a claim, you are defending a way of speaking, then a definition, then a stance, then an identity. And listening begins to feel like concession. Clarification begins to feel like weakness, and silence begins to feel like defeat. At that point, evidence is irrelevant because the argument is no longer about the world. It is starting to maintain coherence inside a linguistic structure you do not know how to step outside of. This is the reason why Wittgenstein, well, he rejected the idea that philosophy should produce theories. Actually, he thought that the theory building often made even the problem worse. He described philosophy as some kind of therapy, but not the therapy in the modern way of like not in the modern term. It's not something that's supposed to make you like more comfort or find comfort. In his meaning, the philosophical therapy is that shows you where language has quietly taken control of your thinking. Philosophy for Wittgenstein does not solve problems. It reveals why the problems simply felt unavoidable. When language is clarified, many philosophical problems are not answered. Well, they sort of disappear. And that the disappearance feels very unsatisfying. Well, at least to human being because the ego, right? The ego wanted resolution, a position, a victory, not not some realization that there was nothing to win. People simply hate this type of finales. We want philosophy to deliver conclusions, and Wittgenstein offers something colder. He said philosophy gives you no new information about reality. It shows you how you became confused about it. And once that confusion is visible, there is often nothing left to argue about. And that is what leaves very uncomfortable implication. Because if this is true, well, then many of the arguments that feel most urgent, most obvious, most morally charged might not be disagreements at all. They might be situations where language was simply never examined, only inhabited. So here is the question that does not resolve neatly. Which arguments in your life feel the most certain? Which ones trigger immediate defense before you even know why? Think about them. And how many of them might persist, not because someone is wrong, but because the words were never clarified? Well, not every argument deserves a response. Some arguments deserve clarification, and some of them deserve nothing at all.